Patrick O'Donovan, who's the Minister for Arts, Culture and Sports, has issued a broadside at the hotel sector, accusing hoteliers of robbing people up to their eyeballs. He says hotels are routinely fleecing people around big concerts and events, and he has said it amounted to killing the goose that lays the golden egg. The Minister wasn't available to join us on the programme. In a moment we'll hear from Paul Gallagher, the Chief Executive of the Irish Hotels Federation. But Eoghan Corry from TravelExtra.ie, given the importance of the hotel sector to incoming tourism as well as domestic tourism, what do you think is the Minister playing at?
Good evening, Matt, from sunny Stratham, and we're here at the Irish Open, and that's pretty much at the core of the Minister's message. Welcome to the world of dynamic pricing. Listeners will be very familiar with it due to the concert ticket situation, when prices for concerts spike according to what the demand is. The aviation industry has been doing it for 25 years, 30 years. The hotel industry has been doing it in recent years. Basically, when the demand gets high, the price gets high. When the demand gets low, the price gets low. That's what he's touching at. And I've seen politicians right across Europe and consumer groups right across Europe saying there's a bit of runaway spiking here. Hoteliers are allowed to charge whatever they like. Big variations in the price between the low season and the high season. Something should be done about it. What can be done about it is a little bit more complicated than Patrick O'Donovan will probably be able to put his head around.
But isn't it the law of supply and demand? Is this not, I suppose, the real-time daily example of the dynamic pricing that's caused so much trouble, for example, with the Oasis concert?
As raw an example of supply and demand as you can get. You see it in aviation. You can't put the seats, you can't put the hotel beds in the freezer and sell them on Monday. If they're unsold, the price comes down. But when the demand comes in, and the really interesting thing that I've watched over the years is that humans don't make the decisions anymore. The bots are put in, the algorithms are put in, but to the aviation model and into the hotel model. I mean, Paul will be talking to in a moment. He'd remember when the GM was the most important person in the hotel. At stages, it looks like the revenue manager has now become the most important person in the hotel industry, because they're the ones who make the calculation. Demand goes high, price goes high. There's another factor in here, and the hoteliers were probably making this point, is that when you stay in a hotel, not everyone's paying the same price. People who've booked months in advance are going to be paying a lower price. People who've booked through tour operators, the people who bring busloads around, they get a different price. And when somebody goes on to one of the big online travel agencies like Expedia or Booking with 3 weeks to go before a big event, such as the rugby matches, or the Ryder Cup is going to be in the news in a few weeks' time. If someone comes in 3 or 4 weeks before that, you're looking at astronomical prices. But that's not what people have paid that booked well in advance. Much the same as aviation, much the same as Ryanair operate their show. OK,
Paul Gallagher, Chief Executive of the Irish Hotels Federation. You're robbing people up to their eyeballs. What do you make of that?
I think it's an outrageous thing for a minister to say. I think it just shows the lack of understanding about what are the rates in Dublin. No one ever rings up and asks me, because I can't speak to price. I can speak to the value, and I can look backwards at rates. The rate achieved up to the end of July for the first 7 months of the year for Dublin was €170.40. I have the data here with me.
Is it possible to get a room in Dublin for €170.40?
The achieved rate for every day across those 7 months for all of the hotel rooms of a sample size of 24,000 rooms, the achieved rate was €170.40. Now, it could easily be €100 on a Sunday night, and it could be €240 on a Saturday. So it will have a pattern to how the rate rises and falls during the week.
Yeah, but there will be some hotels that will charge you an awful lot more than 170. There are very few that will charge you less, aren't there?
Oh, on any Monday, Tuesday, look online, you get a room in Dublin right across July, €120 or €30. And even in January and February, if there's no rugby, you'll get those kind of rates. So overall, we're down about 1.3% on our average room rate this year so far to date. Notwithstanding, there are very extraordinary prices online for the 27th of September. But for the Minister to come out on radio and accuse the whole industry of bad behaviour when he doesn't know how many hotels he's talking about, doesn't know the achieved rate for Dublin up to the end of July, is disingenuous. It doesn't treat us fairly, and he's just going for sort of a below-the-belt dig at an industry that he has no right to hit.
And have you contacted him about this?
No, I haven't, and really what's the point, to be quite honest, because...
To put him right where he's wrong, maybe to get an apology out of him, if you feel that strongly that he's misrepresented your situation.
Well, I'm guessing he's going to hear this interview because of what I've just said, so he'll hear it verbatim on the radio. I just think it's just outrageous, and I think that kind of loose-lipped kind of analysis of hotel value is very disappointing. And I think a lot of the industry find his remarks offensive.
Well, a lot of people are texting in, supporting him, delighted he said it. What do you make of that?
Who's got data? I have all the data in front of me. I mean, I could ring any radio show and talk about the price of a room, the price of my long hair on a Friday, the price of turkey at Christmas, the price of roses at Valentine's, the price of ads on RTE during the Late Late Show toy show. They all change. Dynamic pricing is not unusual.
What do you say to that, Eoghan Corry? I'm not asking you to defend the Minister right away. I know you're not a spokesman for the Minister, but you're an objective analyst. What do you think when you hear that?
Social media is full of complaints about hotel prices. The reality is that once dynamic pricing moves into another sector and moves into another area, there's a chance it'll move into even more areas. It's a reality. It's something that, as I say, stems from the aviation industry. And it's interesting that the reaction to hotel prices isn't as dramatic as the reaction to aviation prices. If you can pay €20 for the same flight as you pay €300 with a day to go, it's going to happen in other industries. Let's get used to that, because there isn't really a way for legislating for it. And the consumer groups and politicians, and Patrick O'Donovan's echoing what constituents and people who complain about, I really do only go to Dublin for big events, and every time I go it's a huge hotel price. There are always lateral ways, there are always ways to work around. It's what people in the travel industry can, when I'm talking to travel consumers, we have to work out how to get a very, very popular product without paying the very, very high rate for it. But that's become a little bit of a game. It's a bit of a game of chess between the consumer and the supplier. And as you alluded to yourself, Matt, this is a pretty raw a case of supply and demand as you're going to get hotel beds. There's a limited supply of them. The one way of getting around this problem is to increase the number of hotel beds. And Dublin is one of the cities in Europe that's really short of hotel beds. We reckon it's about 3,000 beds short of where it should be. And until we get something on from the political side, what Patrick O'Donovan could be doing is unleashing or unlocking the quagmire that is the planning system at the moment, which is haunting everything, delivery of housing and delivery of hotel beds. That's one way of getting those spikes in price down.
OK, Paul Gallagher, does the Irish Hotels Federation, do the members really want more hotel rooms? Because if you have more hotel rooms, won't that drive down price for every existing member?
Yeah, they do want more hotel rooms, and I want more capacity built. More capacity means the whole market will grow rather than be restrictive to certain caps. If hotels don't grow, we'll be capping effectively the number of tourists that can come here by our hotel room availability.
But aren't the number of tourists falling anyway? Aren't Irish people deciding that they want to go overseas to see concerts because it's cheaper for them to buy a ticket and stay in a hotel even after the flights than it is to go to an event in Dublin?
Well, I don't know if you have that as research or is that anecdotal, but we need more hotel rooms. The reason we don't have them is there is competition for sites, and that's obviously affecting delivery hotels. The complications with planning, they're too slow, and the slow planning means costs accelerate so high that the actual proposition is not viable. And then, of course, the government themselves are a fairly large occupier of hotels around the country. So, it's interesting, government ministers complain on radio about hotels when they actually occupy 7,000 rooms in hotels around Ireland, distorting the market. The Irish government are the ones who are driving costs into the industry. They just can't help themselves.
How are they driving costs into the industry?
Water costs went up by 10% on the 1st of September. We have cost after cost. We have an electrical system in Ireland. It is creaking, about to fall over. Industry can't connect to the water services. Dublin Bay's water treatment plant is now past its capacity. We are creaking. So be on the radio and talk about hotel rooms rather than fix problems. I think I know where I should put that, Minister.
Kieran and Mayo says, how dare they say it's okay to double or triple prices on the occasion of a gig or concert? You are backing your customers into a corner with no choice. There's no reason for it at all, only greed.
Well, I'm going to say, Matt, I've been on your show a few times, hotel prices are the most transparent service that you will see in the marketplace. If you look at Booking.com or any other aggregator, you can see the price of every hotel room that's available at any moment in time, and you can decide based on your budget or where you want to stay, or if you're flexible when you stay, you have ample choice. We don't force people in with sticks into a hotel to make them pay €1,000 a night or whatever price to stay. It is a choice, and they can choose not to, or they can choose to stay. We would like to see more capacity, and we'd like to see more capacity at budget, which would obviously bring better value all around to the consumer.
Listener says, I understand dynamic pricing and it makes sense within reason. If you want it ahead of everyone else, you pay to get your name above everyone else's. But having said that, the hotels have set the bar too high. You speak about Dublin only, but myself and my partner are due to get married in a country town in February. And yet, on top of a €150 charge per person for a sit-down meal, the hotel is looking for our guests to pay €375 to stay the night. It's simple greed. That is the thing with wedding venues, isn't it? Wedding hotels.
I know, but I mean, I don't know. Is that a 5-star hotel? Are they selling the last suites? I mean, you're asking me to guess what hotel they might be staying in. €350, if that was a dare, you'd be happy to pay that. So
you wouldn't get a chance of being able to stay in a dare for €350.
Wherever it might be. I mean, it's very difficult on the radio to respond to an unknown hotel complaint.
Okay, what do you say to that, Eoghan? I don't know if you've had experience of going to weddings recently and what you might be charged to stay the night.
Sadly, yes, but again, all it comes down to the supply-demand. If your demand spikes and the prices go up, the long-term way of solving that is to increase supply. And we've got pressure coming on supply for loads of reasons. There's another major thing that's going on that politicians are driving, which is effectively shutting down the self-catering sector, the short-term rental sector. People are being told that the houses, the tourism product that they're putting on the market, they're no longer able to do so. There's supposed to be a register introduced by False Arm. There's a delay on that. There's a legal delay on being able to comply with legislation that is supposed to be coming in. And we could see 40 or 50% of the short-term rental, including the rooms that are on Airbnb, disappearing from the sector. One result out of that will be that the extra pressure will come on the available supply of hotel rooms, and the spike that Patrick O'Donovan's really giving out about will get worse.
Paul Gallagher, one last one to you. If we have such a shortage of hotel rooms, how come we have things like the NFL game in Croke Park at the end of September, given that that's bringing in tens of thousands of American tourists? Where are they going to stay if we don't have enough hotel rooms?
Yeah, in the best way world, what I would like is, and we've said this to some of the sponsors of the events, is we move them into months where we have capacity, so you're stretching the year. There's more hotels available, and therefore there's better pricing available. You're quite right. We would rather see these in quieter months, these big ticket events, just like you have the autumn international rugby matches in November. It makes sense to place them, I think, where the industry is best able to deal with them at a price that everybody can afford.
But the NFL wants to play a game at a particular time.
Yeah.
It's even just recently, we had Colleges American Football, which is always on now, has been for years, the last Saturday of the month of August. And then there was a Robbie Williams concert decided for exactly the same night in Croke Park.
No, you're right. And, when big events come and there's scarce supply, Falcharn did a report at the end of 2023, prices generally on compression nights, that's nights over about 85% occupancy, prices inflate by about 24%. And I can understand consumers not happy about higher prices. But, we don't always, or we're not in charge of how many rooms are available or what price. I mean, obviously, if you have alternative dates available to come to Dublin, and there are plenty of value in Dublin, just not on some nights like this. So the 27th of September, Dublin is full to the gills.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Paul Gallagher, Chief Executive of the Irish Hotels Federation, and Eoghan Corry